Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Terror Season 1, Episode 6. It's called A Mercy. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, this was a bit of a slower episode, I thought, in terms of the first half of it at least. There was a lot of build-up. It was dealing with kind of the morale.
Yeah.
It was bringing up the food, like how much food have we got left? How can we ration that out? Oh, we've taken a hit. X amount of our tinned food is gone, it's done. We can't
Yeah.
use it, which obviously we set up last time. Um, but it did go out with a bang. The last 10 minutes were particularly notable,
Yes. Rather explosive.
and I think very good. And I think what's interesting about it is that all the bad things that happen in this episode, with the exception of Lady Silence, who's kind of on her own, and we'll talk about her, but is that it's all kind of natural problems. It's nothing to do with the monsters, nothing to do with the beast. It's just the doom and gloom of we're trapped out here, and the natural things that would occur if there was no beast, even if it was just us trying to survive.
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole conversation with Blanky saying, you know what, I've been on this sort of expedition before. This is exactly what happens. It's only a matter of time till everyone gets these sorts of thoughts.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
they
the
get this.
episode goes on to show us these are the thoughts.
Yeah, basically your mind deteriorates, and enhanced by the fact that the sickness that some of the men seem to be getting from the which we know is confirmed as lead.
Lead
Um,
poisoning, yeah.
Good Sir basically figures it out with the monkey and kind of like, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And when he tells the main doctor, that leads to all the stuff that happens at the end, because he decides to not only set himself on fire, but the entire tent, which the men. Because one of the things that Good Sir has this idea, well, not Good Sir, sorry, Fitzjames has this idea because he's talking to Blanky, and Blanky's like, hey, eventually, we started to basically, some of the men were like, we should maybe kill the captain. He's being, because he tells a story of how this captain was particularly bad. He was particularly unfair to the men compared to himself. He gave all these commands. He was fine up in his little throne on his little thing that he's been pulled on, but he's telling them, oh, you have to work hard, or you have to, because we're walking through the ice and all the rest of it.
Leave the sick and
Yeah. And eventually, they were ready to kill their captain, or they were verging on that. And then,
it's worth noting this captain's kind of revered. He has memoirs out that Fitzjames has been reading because he was celebrated for getting his men back alive.
but he was so close to that not happening. He was so close to the men killing the captain, and then them all just dying there and starving to death.
Yeah,
Like that.
it's again something we've been talking about the whole season, the balance.
So, and okay, are you going to, if we're going to start rationing the food? Because at first, okay, we'll do 3/4 rations, right? It's not too much, but Fitzjames like, no, that's maybe too much to begin with. Let's just start with 4/5. Make it a smaller
Yeah.
chunk they're losing, and
Yeah,
we'll
they
come
won't
back in a
notice it
month.
as much, and then we'll cut down gradually.
But Blank's like, yeah, they're going to start noticing their food's gone. You need to give them something in return, and give them something positive as well. And it leads to this idea: we'll have a carnival. We'll get some tents out, there's some costumes kicking around, and we'll have some fun and
Yeah,
drink and
because at this
whatnot.
point as well, they've decided, yeah, okay, we're gonna walk because
Yeah,
this is something else that Blanky says. By the time they decided to walk, they left it too late. The sickness and the scurvy had set in. It was like, okay, they were weaker than they should have been, so it was much more difficult than it could have been. So they've
Yeah.
got all this extra food they can't carry anyway.
and Fitzjames actually basically flat out says at one point, Francis was right, that they should have listened to him earlier on. He for all his flaws, he was right about this. Because we see Francis as well, who's still recovering. He works up the strength. He wants to go and see this carnival. He's like, "Oh, no, take me out. Get me dressed.
It's time.
Let's go." And he just kind of wants to be with the niceties, and it's only because he finds out from Fitzjames that he's made the choice. We should start walking. Once the daylight's lasting long enough, we're going to make the trek. And he's like, "Okay, well, let's not surprise them with it. Let's not trick them with it. Let's just tell them right now." And he starts giving a speech, and obviously he's giving this big speech. He's saying, "Oh, we have to do this. It's going to be this. It's going to be that." It's in the middle of this that Lady Silence walks in, having cut out her tongue. Just,
It was a pretty good speech as well, to be fair.
it was a pretty good speech, and I think
The men seem to be responding pretty well. It's like, yeah, okay, it's pretty shit that we're going to have to walk. I think it was 800 miles or something.
800
like that.
miles, yeah. And he's
But-
like, yeah, and he says, hey, but the upside is that the men we sent out, months ago, should already be on their way back. I mean, admittedly, this is the thing, we don't even know as the audience if they made it or not. We have no idea.
No, exactly.
So they could be on their way back, they could not be, but in theory they should be on their way back. So that'll be with help, that'll be with aid, and that'll be a thing. But I think what the scene shows more than anything else to me is that despite his problems, his alcohol problem, which he's obviously clearly trying to kick right now, is that And then obviously there's that awkward moment where one of them spills booze on him, and it's this kind of
Yeah.
awkward moment where
I-
it's almost like he's had acid spilled out. I was like, oh.
Do you know, the whole idea of going to the carnival is pretty brave in some ways because, you know, there's a lot of people who are going to be drinking there. That's kind of the whole point. This big celebration.
Especially, I think, in this time period. I feel like now it's a lot more accepted that X amount of people will go and not drink at an event, at a gathering of some
Sure.
kind. It's. I mean, I do think, as someone who doesn't drink, there's too many people who do drink who will, like, well, why? And they'll question
No,
it.
no.
There's still too much of that, but it's still, on the whole, more understood.
It is, but even so, I wouldn't take a brand new sober man
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
to one of these events.
Absolutely.
That's a bit
But
much.
eventually, they're probably going to have to cope with doing that. I mean, admittedly, if you're sort of person who hates parties like I do, then it wouldn't be that much of a big deal. But if you are someone who does like to go to events with people, you'd have to maybe learn to overcome that eventually. But yeah, like you say, he's been kind of brave because he wants to be the captain and show that he's back on his feet, which kind of goes hand in hand with the carnival to boost morale. Is that, hey, the captain's back on his feet, the captain's back to being strong and whatnot. But of course, as this is going on, because Goodsir's told the Doctor about what's happening, and he's like, "No, don't tell the captain. I'll deal with this." And there's a hint earlier on where the other guy who comes in with the sickness, he's like, "Oh, I'm having these thoughts," and the Doctor just kind of like, "You just need rest and fun. That's all you need. A good dose of fun. That's all you need."
Yeah, I think it makes a point in this scene as well of reminding us that Goodsir's not a real Doctor because he comes in saying, "Oh, I'm looking for Doctor Goodsir," and he goes, "You mean Mister Goodsir?"
Well, I think more to the point, though, it's more for his character than it is reminding us that he's not a real doctor. It's him saying, "How dare you call him a..." No, he doesn't actually say this, but you get the tension. It's like, don't call him a doctor. He's not... I earned my doctor.
No, but I think it's relevant come the end of the episode to
Oh, no,
remind
it
us
is.
of
No,
that,
absolutely
because
is.
we've all just been going, yeah, he's a doctor.
But here's the
Ken
thing,
does all
though.
that stuff.
I think the more important part of the scene, though, is that he looks at... the other guy looks at his drawings, is that your wife and daughter? And he quickly shuts the book. Because he's typically been this dickhead the entire show. He's kind of hard.
Yeah.
He's not likable at all. It does just enough that later on, when he is making the choice to kill himself and potentially kill most of the men, because he burns all the tent, puts
He
the...
traps them in, but he laces it all up, sets it on fire, and then self-immolates.
It adds more weight to him doing that. That it's just like, oh no, he has a reason to go back, but this is him clearly thinking this is hopeless.
Yeah.
No, obviously, had he just done it and burned himself alive, it would be hopeless anyway. But adding on to the fact that he's got a reason to get home. There's actually people he loves that are waiting for him, but he still thinks, no, this is hopeless now. Now that we're slowly ingesting this lead,
Right,
on top of everything else.
And it's interesting because this leaves Goodsir as the chief doctor.
Well, we
medical,
have to clarify how the second Doctor also perishes, because he doesn't go up in flames. He actually gets killed because Hickey, who, to be fair, is actually doing a relatively good thing at this point. He happens to be outside the tent.
He's the only one because he went out for a piss.
Yeah, he has a knife, and everyone can't get out, but he's going to cut the tent from the inside. For the outside, rather. And he's yelling, get back, so I can cut the tent.
But they can't hear him because they're all shouting and screaming.
So he just stabs in and slices up, and he kills the other ship's doctor. And all I could think was, look, I get that they weren't hearing you and they weren't stepping back, but start up top higher than they would be so they can see the knife coming down and potentially move out the way. Instead, he rams it right into the belly of where he would be. I'm like...
It's true, but...
That's clearly someone pressing against it. Start up top and rip down.
No, I get that. I think in the crisis moment, don't forget he's been drinking as well. He's there.
Oh,
just
of course,
like,
you sympathise with the drunks.
No, I'm not saying that sympathy. I'm just saying I understand this here. He's like, okay, I'm gonna kill someone probably here, but it'll save all of them. He's just thinking in the moment of quickly get them out.
For me, though, it feels like such an obvious decision. Is start up top, you're less likely... Because he will definitely stab someone going there. If he goes
will.
up top, he might not, and they might see the blade. That gives them more of a chance.
Perhaps, yeah.
Because they'll see the opening appearing, they'll see
wasn't
it coming
thinking
down.
clearly. I mean, big crisis, panic, there's fire. People don't react well when they see fire. They panic anyway.
They don't.
Add on top of that, people have been drinking. I can kind of see why this happened.
Well, I've never been drunk, so I can't sympathise with this at all. He should have just went up top.
Even taking that out, people panic when they see fire.
These men have been trained. They're on a military ship.
Then yeah, but they're not trained for this level of fire that much. Usually they're at sea. There's water everywhere.
I was just saying, simple solution that might have saved his life.
It
But
might have.
regardless, he's dead. And like at the end, it's like Goodsir's just automatically the head doctor now,
Yeah,
even though he's
there's
not
another
really
guy
a
who's like,
doctor.
"Hey, I know some stuff. I can help out."
Yeah, so now his second in command, someone who knows has a bit of medical training at best. Like,
Yeah,
so that's where we are now. And obviously we've got a lot more deceased. Although the Cynic and me, when they were they were laying out all the bodies at the end, daylight's up because this is the first sunlight of after winter, and the Cynic and me went, well, at the very least, this dozen people who died in this, that's less people to feed. Like, look on the bright side.
no, I think that's well worth noting because early on, when they're counting out all the rations, they say we've got this many men, and the other goes, oh, yeah, well, why are you mentioning that? Like we don't need to know. We know how many men we've got. And he's the guy's kind of going, look, this is how many we got now, but if we lose some, then that's a bit more food for everyone
Yeah,
else.
whether it's the beast, which Dimension's not attacked in the last 2 weeks because we've jumped 2 weeks ahead, or
Yeah,
whether it's just because some get sick because they might.
yeah. The implication was clear though.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because especially because keep in mind like they're saying we've got food for till next October on these rations, but that's for 100+ men. Like that's one person eating for 300 days. So take one person off the table, then that 300 days worth of food gets distributed around to everyone else. So
Yeah, that's an extra couple of days for everyone else.
yeah, so I'm not saying you go out around offing people, but in this show where people are dying left and right,
Yeah, and no, I think it's fair to point this out on things where, especially if they go out walking, if people get ill, chances are you might lose some people along the way. So it is worth having that in consideration.
yeah, yeah. Actually, Fish James at one point had blood dropping from his head.
Yeah, I think that's some maybe not the lead poisoning, but maybe something else.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure what gives that symptom. Because obviously, when I saw the drop of blood land, I thought, oh, he's got a nosebleed, because that's usually a sign of a lot of things. But it was coming from his scalp.
Yeah,
Almost,
yeah.
so,
I'm thinking maybe scurvy, Lyme disease.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm not sure which. I'm not
Because they
familiar
make a
enough with the
point of saying,
symptoms.
that we've got a lot of lemon juice still, which obviously used to counteract scurvy,
But it's
but
been too long.
it's
Lost
been
its
too long.
effect.
Yeah, so that's now becoming an issue.
So no. So no, all this stuff, everything it built up to was great. I enjoyed all that stuff. It felt like a big deal. We should mention Lady Silence, of course, before or as she's cutting out her tongue out, more specifically, because we see that she actually kills like a seal or something, and she's like doing like rituals with parts of seal like around her, and we actually get our first like up close look really at the monster without any trickery. And to be fair, I think they spent a lot of time on this shot to make it look good because it was like slower moving. It was like really in frame, and you could really see it.
Yeah, definitely the best it's looked. Definitely they kept it in low light intentionally. That helps. But it looked pretty good in this shot.
Simple tricks, but it did work, and that's and she comes. It's almost like she's coming for refuge at the end. Like she's all hope's lost, so she's coming back to the men.
Yeah, she makes a point as she's saying some stuff. It's it's been too long without a shaman bound to it, so that's what's kind of making it act out. It seems.
Yeah, so she's trying to like cage it again, but maybe this hasn't worked, and now it's going to be fully unhinged.
Yeah, yeah, quite possibly.
No, I think this was an interesting episode for this place in the season because I think this the Doctor just losing all hope and trying to kill them all because he thinks that's the better, more humane solution to their journey now. It really sets up where we are stakes wise for the rest of the season.
I think it's interesting. It's arguably relatively early for that because he's the first Mon to properly have lost it in that sense, and we're only just over halfway. Whereas, you'd think that might be more towards the end game when we start getting towards that stuff.
Maybe, but I mean, it sets up where we are, and I wonder if it means that the last couple of episodes, you'll have much less men. They'll actually be on the walk, and maybe they'll have left the ship by that point. Like, I don't know if they're ever actually going to get to leave the ship. Like, if this will happen before the end of the show, or if they'll all be killed off before that even happens, or if we'll actually get like time of them actually out walking, and that'll be when they're finally picked off one by one. Or
I'm really intrigued, just because. Yeah, we kind of know they're all doomed anyway. That's because that's the history of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay. So if they do go out on this walk, presumably the beast follows them. why? Why does it go after them? Because it's not just being territorial at that point.
Apparently, though, one of our comments in not in the last episode, but one of the episodes, we're saying that because of the things that have been found and recounted and and whatnot, is that the show is oddly accurate with a lot of things, despite the fact that there's a monster
Yeah.
in it. So I'm assuming that the illnesses they're getting and stuff like that are all
absolutely.
probably based on fact, and they're based on what they knew about the time. Which, by the way, we mentioned remember how we were talking about the cans last week, the tins, and
Yeah.
how they'd be pissed at whoever sold them the tins. They actually had a little dig at them. It was like, oh, if I get my hands on that bastard.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that's why they were the cheapest.
I wouldn't want to be having to get
That is
back.
government bureaucracy at its finest. Just go with the cheapest. It'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Things haven't changed.
But hey, no. So I thought it was solid overall. I do think it was a bit slower in the first half, and
Yeah, I've had that problem a few times in the season where there's just the episodes are just slightly oddly paced, where it's a little bit too slow in the first half, and then it's all action in the back half.
okay.
And I'm kind of just going, okay, that's become this is like the third or fourth time I've felt it, so I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's not the end of the world because it's always worth it at the end. The build is always great.
I think I felt it more in this one compared, because I think with the others, like the slow tension worked for me. This one, it was mostly about setting up this carnival.
Yeah, but it's not that it's never been working for me. What's going on there? It's that I'm just noticing that it feels like two halves. It feels like, okay, it's slow, and now we're into action and into overdrive, and it's happened a few times, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's probably something that'll happen again. Although I imagine the last couple episodes might be a bit more densely packed.
It's true.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
It
it's one of these problems as well, that the more it happens, kind of the more annoying it gets, because you kind of feel it more and more each time.
This is the first time I felt that, though. Really.
Okay.
So I guess I'm further from the threshold than you are.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. But there's only so many left, and like you're saying, the last few should be kind of all things go, because we've only got so much time to deal with this.
especially if the monster starts attacking them again. It feels
Yeah.
like there's more of a countdown. We need to get going.
I'll be really intrigued to see if it does feel like it's they're being stalked by it. Yeah, more of a hunt rather than just okay. Sometimes it comes in and attacks.
Yeah. I don't know, but we'll find out. So that is episode 6 of The Terror. We'll be back next week, episode 7. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that. Otherwise, that is us, though. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?